welcome to PCB Chat, where we talk with experts across the printed circuit design, manufacturing, and electronics supply chain fields. I'm Mike Buetow, Editor-in-Chief of PCD&F and Circuits Assembly. My guest today is Wally Rhines, CEO Emeritus of Mentor and the former Chairman of the ESD Alliance. Welcome back to PCB Chat, and Happy New Year, Wally.
Glad to be back, Mike. Happy New Year to you.
Thanks. And it truly is a Happy New Year based on the numbers being released today by the ESD Alliance. The latest market report, which is for the third quarter of 2019, ended September 30th, show that overall EDA industry revenue rose nearly 9% to $2.36 billion. Another great quarter, Wally.
It really was. It was a phenomenally strong quarter, nearly 20% growth. That's higher than anything we've seen since 2016. 2016 was an exceptionally easy compare. So it's PCB as well as packaging, both been very strong, and it's a worldwide strength as well.
And just following along those lines, the PCB and MCM Design Software was up big. You know, it's a smaller category relative to some of the others that are tracked, including CAE and IC design, but we saw those numbers for PCB rise nearly 20% year over year to almost $241 million.
Yeah, we're getting very close to $1 billion business on the reported numbers for PCB and for packaging. So it's a big category. That's out of a total for the industry of $9.5 billion. So roughly 10% of EDA revenue goes into PCB and packaging.
Now, we've mentioned this before, but could you review quickly the types of companies that contribute data to the survey?
The subscribers are listed in the report, and they include the major companies in EDA, and in the packaging side, some that are smaller. Each category has to have at least 3 reporting companies for us to break it out as a separate category. But it's a very broad and diverse collection, and it includes all the names that you would normally think of in the printed circuit board and packaging business.
Now, after a brief pause in the June quarter, North America surged again as well. In fact, it appears that it helped lift the worldwide numbers.
It did. North America was quite strong actually it was strong in everything in EDA, but the PCB's numbers for North America were exceptionally strong as well. So 25% basically for PCB and packaging, which is quite strong. This is a business which in recent years has been growing annually at about 8 to 9% range, which is also very strong compared to a decade ago when it was growing at a much slower rate.
And the worldwide headcount rose more than 6.5% year over year and 1.4% sequentially. Any sense of which region is growing the fastest when it comes to hirings? The
fastest one would be Europe. Japan is 6.1%. We have the rest of the world is about 6%. Europe is 8%. We did have positive growth in the U.S., so about a 3% growth. Europe was the fastest growing.
Would you know whether there's a correlation between hiring and growth? Is one a leading indicator for the other?
Typically, the hiring for the EDA industry precedes the revenue growth of semiconductors or electronics, but should come closer to correlating with the revenue of the EDA industry, since the hiring in EDA is largely for development of tools that precede the generation of revenue from those tools.
Now, I have the advantage over our listeners because I can actually see the chart, but it appears that Q3 typically is a pretty strong quarter for the industry at large.
I believe so. We have a number of companies whose fiscal year ends in Q3, and any of those that don't mostly end in Q4. So the EDA industry has tended to be a little bit loaded toward the back half. I should note, though, that there is an increasing percentage of the revenue that is recognized ratably, and that tends to smooth it through the year. But there are still some major companies that have a significant portion of their revenue recognized up front.
Now, we have a few big drivers, I think, right now between the 5G implementation, IIoT, and just judging by some of the trade shows I've been through lately, augmented reality and virtual reality tools are starting to pop up in all sorts of industrial applications. So, we've got some wind at our back, I think, going into 2020. Do you care to make a prediction for how this year is going to turn out?
Well, ESDA doesn't make a forecast, so it's we remain silent on. We would note, though, that overall EDA has been very strong in recent years, and one of the big contributors has been the large number of new companies that have come into the world of design, both printed circuit board and integrated circuits. And those include IT companies, the Googles, Facebooks, Amazons, and others who design their own printed circuit boards for their servers, and they also the world of IoT for these companies and many more requires putting multiple components on a substrate of some sort, and those numbers end up in the PCB and the multi-chip module packaging numbers. So a bunch of industries that didn't exist before. You mentioned augmented reality, factory floor automation, things that are growing very strongly now that weren't growing so strongly a decade ago. And that explains to some extent the very strong growth, especially in the PCB and the MCM space.
Any other things that jumped out at you this quarter, Wally?
For those in the world who thought that the printed circuit board business was a business of the past, think again. It's now a major growth area for the EDA industry.
Yeah, it really has been, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for all of us that continues into 2020 and beyond.
We all hope so.
Well, Wally, it's been a pleasure talking with you as always. All our best for a successful 2020.
Thanks very much, Mike. Talk to you again soon.
This has been Mike Buetow for PCB Chat. Have a good day.